One of the most important skills you can ever develop is the art of conversation. This is about more than just talking. It's about connecting, influencing, and building relationships that truly matter. Let's begin with a simple truth. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, honed, and mastered. Think about it. Every relationship, every opportunity, every success you will ever achieve is tied in some way to your ability to communicate. Whether you're navigating business, enriching your personal life, or chasing a dream, your ability to converse with others is key. To be a great conversationalist, you must be more interested in others than you are in making others interested in you. This might seem counterintuitive. We're often told that if we want to impress, we have to be interesting, right? But here's the secret. The most interesting people are those who are genuinely interested in others. When you focus on the person you're talking to, when you really listen, ask questions, and show genuine curiosity, you create a connection that goes far beyond surface-level chatter. Consider this. How often do we find ourselves in conversations where we're simply waiting for our turn to speak? We're so focused on what we want to say next that we miss the chance to truly engage with the person in front of us. If you want to master the art of conversation, you must shift your focus. Become deeply interested in the person you're talking to. Be curious about their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences. I'll share a story from my own life. Early in my career, I had the privilege of working with some of the most successful people in business. One thing that stood out to me was how they approached conversations. They were always deeply engaged, always asking questions, always seeking to understand the other person. They weren't just making small talk. They were building relationships, one conversation at a time. Let's talk about listening. Listening is more than just hearing words. It's about understanding, empathizing, and responding thoughtfully. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not with the intent to understand. But here's what separates great conversationalists from the rest. They listen with full attention and an open mind. They listen, not just to respond, but to truly understand what the other person is saying. There's a concept I often refer to as active listening. It involves fully engaging with the speaker, nodding, making eye contact, and giving verbal affirmations like "I see" or "That's interesting." But it goes beyond just these physical signs of listening. Active listening means asking follow-up questions that show you've been paying attention. It's about diving deeper into the conversation, showing that you're not just listening to respond, but to learn. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a conversation and the other person mentions they've just returned from a trip to Japan. Instead of saying, "Oh, that's nice," and moving on, you could say, "Japan? That sounds fascinating. What was the highlight of your trip?" Or even better, "I've always been curious about Japanese culture. What did you find most surprising?" This type of engagement shows that you're not just hearing the words they're saying, but you're interested in their experience. Here's a personal anecdote. I once had a conversation with a gentleman who was an expert in a field I knew little about. Instead of trying to steer the conversation to something I was more familiar with, I decided to dive into his world. I asked questions, I listened, I learned. By the end of the conversation, not only had I gained a wealth of new knowledge, but I had also formed a genuine connection with someone who appreciated my interest in his expertise. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing the world through their eyes. When you bring empathy into a conversation, you create a space where the other person feels heard, valued, and understood. Why is this important? Because people are drawn to those who make them feel good about themselves. When you show empathy in a conversation, you're telling the other person, "I care about how you feel. Your thoughts and experiences matter to me." This builds trust, deepens connections, and opens the door to more meaningful and productive conversations. Empathy doesn't mean you have to agree with everything